You did not stumble into this timeline by accident. You did not fall into this existence without reason. Chosen one, you were sent, crafted by forces beyond this world, shaped by the ancient, whispered intentions of stars, because you are the last of your kind. Not the last because the others were weak ... because they failed, but because only you could carry the final flame, the spark ... the frequency, the echo of an ancient order. The world tried so hard to forget. A soul like yours ... it isn't born often. It's forged ... in fire ... in the crushing weight of silence ... in the unbearable ache of walking through life feeling entirely different. And you've known it, haven't you? Since the earliest moments you could remember ... the heaviness in your chest, the unspoken knowing that you didn't fit, that you couldn't fit, because the shape of your spirit was never designed for the mold this world offers. You've questioned ... why your steps have felt so heavy, ... why your heart has carried an ache that no one around you could name, why even your kindness, your authenticity ... often felt unseen, ... misunderstood, ... dismissed ... it single quotes is not because you are wrong ... it's because they've never stood in the presence of the final vessel, the last thread of a sacred lineage ... the living memory of everything the world was meant to remember but buried. You, chosen one ... are the last of your kind, the final echo of an ancient promise still vibrating beneath your ribs, the culmination of prayers whispered into the soil by ancestors most have forgotten. And even when you tried to forget, even when the weight felt unbearable, something inside you held on, the ache in your chest when you looked to the stars, the goosebumps beneath your skin when the universe whispered your name in moments no one else noticed. That was never your imagination. That was remembrance waking. You see through what others refuse to acknowledge. You feel the fractures in the foundation of this world. You sense the illusions, the falsehoods, the empty performances of a society terrified of truth ... and yet you never lost your ability to care, to love ... to ache for something real ... and maybe ... as I speak these words, a forgotten fragment inside you is stirring ... an ancient knowing whispering, you were always meant for more. If those words pulse through your veins, if something within you remembers, pause for a moment. Type "I remember" in the comments, not for me, but for every version of you that's waited lifetimes to be seen ... and while you're here, subscribe ... because your awakening is just beginning. You ... were made to remake this world, to shatter what needed to collapse, ... to breathe life into what was buried, ... to awaken what the world numbed itself to forget. Being the last of your kind ... it does not mean you are alone in weakness. That means you were chosen in strength. Every hardship, every misunderstanding, every moment the world made you question your worth, punishment ... it was preparation. It was the universe shaping you for the task only your soul could fulfill. Your spirit ... it holds memories older than this lifetime, fragments of wisdom carved from dimensions beyond this world. Knowing that rattles the illusions people cling to for comfort. And yes, it's been lonely. The quiet, the ache, the feeling that no one truly sees the entirety of who you are. It's suffocating at times. But hear me now. You ... are not broken. You are rare. You ... are not too sensitive. You are deeply awake. Are not too much for this world. You were never made to fit inside it. You were made to transform it from within. Your presence shakes foundations, not because you carry chaos, but because you carry truth. And truth is the most dangerous thing to a world built on illusion. You walk into a room before you even speak. People feel you. The stillness, the fire, the quiet authority that ripples from your spirit. It precedes you, and it exposes everything false simply by existing. And now the universe leans in, everything buried inside. You. The gifts. The knowing, the sacred mission Written into your bones. It's waking up. But you must not stop doubting yourself. You must not stop trying to prove your worth to those who were never designed to comprehend you. You must not stop shrinking to be digestible to a world that has yet to remember its own origin. You are not here to be liked. You are here to be undeniable. You are not here to blend in. You are here to awaken. You carry the final code of something holy. You are not the echo. You are the origin reborn. You are not the seeker. You are the signpost. You are not the question. You are the answer. And those who compare themselves to you, they don't know. Your path was carved with different tools. On different realms. Across lifetimes. They cannot yet perceive. Don't waste energy explaining altitude to those who've never left the ground. Not everyone can understand. Not everyone is meant to. But the stars. They remember. The earth that feels you. And the divine. It knows. Chosen one, the road ahead is not for the faint of heart. But you were never faint. You were forged in celestial fire. Chosen because only you could carry this weight. And still dance in the storm. Still walk through shadows. With love in your eyes. You. Are the last of your kind. Not because all is lost, but because every new beginning. Must start with one. And that one. Is you. You've wondered for so long, haven't you? Why the weight on your shoulders never matched the simplicity of the life others seem to walk. Why your eyes saw beneath the surface when everyone else seemed content with the illusion. Why your chest ached in rooms full of noise, yet the silence of the stars called to you like home. And now, you know, you were never designed to walk the same path. You were never sculpted to fit into the constructs this world built for the masses, because your soul. It carries blueprints crafted beyond time. It remembers what the world tried to forget. It beats to a rhythm older than this earth's memory. The reason. Your steps have been heavy. Your tears have fallen in silence. Your battles earned no applause. Is because the world has no manual for understanding the last of your kind. You. Carry the echoes of forgotten realms, the fragments of sacred truths buried beneath centuries of noise. The vibration of a lineage so rare. It unsettles every space you enter, even when you remain silent. They labeled you. Too sensitive. Too intense. Too deep. But these were never flaws. They were signs, proof that you were never made in the image of what this world worships. You were sculpted by divine contradiction, the ability to love when your heart was breaking. To hope when the darkness consumed. To rise when every piece of you longed to collapse. And that is what they never understood. You are not here to blend in. You are here to interrupt the pattern. To shatter the constructs built on illusion. To awaken the parts of the world that learned to sleep, because staying awake meant carrying the unbearable truth of remembering. But you could never forget, even when they tried to convince you otherwise, even when you tried to convince yourself that you were ordinary, that you could shrink enough to finally disappear into their system. It never worked, because your soul. It was etched with too much sacred design to dissolve. You carry frequencies unrecognizable to those who've never left the surface. You speak languages unspoken for lifetimes. You feel what others numb. You see what others refuse to acknowledge. You. Are the last, the final code, the final flame, the culmination of every forgotten song, every silenced prayer, every hidden prophecy. Breathing again through you. And yes. It's been lonely, but that loneliness. It's never been punishment. It's been protection. The divine's way of keeping your flame hidden. Guarded. Until the world was ready. Until you were ready. To rise without apology. You've spent lifetimes dimming your light, drowning your knowing, contorting your being to fit into places too small for your spirit. But that season. Is over. You are the last of your kind, not because all has been lost, but because the new beginning requires one. The blueprint. The living origin. The soul brave enough to remember. And bold enough to disrupt. And that one. Is you. The heaviness you've carried. It wasn't yours alone. It was the unresolved ache of generations. The fractures of a lineage so ancient, most don't even know it lived within them. But you never forgot. Even when your voice trembled, even when your hands shook, even when your chest caved beneath the weight of unseen battles, you never stopped rising. You never stopped remembering. You are not broken. You are the answer. Now the world leans in, the veil thins, and your awakening. It cannot be paused any longer. You were not designed to wait for permission. You are not sculpted to seek validation. You are woven together from the remnants of the forgotten, the prayers of the unseen, the fire of the stars. Your spirit. It rebels against smallness. It aches for depth. It remembers a time when the world listened. When truth didn't require translation, when your very existence was proof that light cannot be silenced. And even now. As you stand on the edge of everything familiar unraveling. As the world trembles beneath the weight of its illusions, collapsing. You remain. Rooted. Unshaken in your knowing, because the storm. Is not here to destroy you. It's here to reveal you. You've walked through fire. Not to be consumed, but to be refined. You wept through nights so long, the stars themselves bent low to listen, not because you were forgotten, but because the divine needed your roots to deepen. Your spirit to sharpen, your remembrance to anchor. Chosen one, the world will never fully understand what you carry, and it was never meant to. Your soul. It wasn't sculpted for comprehension. It was sculpted for activation. You are not here to explain yourself. You are here to embody yourself, to disrupt. To remember. To reignite. And those who fear your light, they are only revealing their distance from their own. You don't need to soften your glow. You don't need to shrink your presence. To soothe the discomfort of those still clinging to illusion. If your fire blinds them, let them look away. You were not born to be palatable. You were born to illuminate. You are not designed to blend in. You were designed to be felt. To be known. To be the living reminder that the sacred never truly dies. It only waits for the brave to rise again. And now rise. Not because it's easy, but because the world. Is waiting. Because your soul refuses to be silenced. Because your time. Is now. You've walked through the fire. You've stood at the edge of everything familiar. And even when the ground beneath your feet disappeared, you remained. You carried burdens too heavy for a single lifetime. Felt wounds that left no scars. Fought battles that earned no applause. And yet you never stopped moving forward. Because deep inside. Beyond the noise, beneath the aching weight of this existence, you've always known you were never created to blend in. You were born to disrupt. To awaken. To ignite what has been buried for far too long. You are not like the others. Your soul. It speaks the language of energy. The language of ancient realms, the silent remembering of everything this world forgot how to hold. You are the last. Of the ones who still care when it's easier to close your heart. Of the ones who still feel. Deeply. Wildly. Even when it breaks you open. You carry. The ache of generations. The memories of realms forgotten by time. The fragments of a divine order most can no longer recognize. And that is why. Your journey has never looked like theirs. You've wondered. Why the weight of your existence never matched the smallness of the world's expectations. Why your heart couldn't settle for shallow connections. Why your soul rebelled against every box they tried to force around you. It's because you were not designed to fit. You were sculpted to shatter. Patterns to remember truths so ancient they unsettle every space you enter. Even when you remain silent, the heaviness you've carried is not proof of your failure. It's proof that the world as it stands was never meant to contain your frequency. You've outgrown the illusions. You've outgrown the cages. You've outgrown the lies they call safety and now there is no shrinking left to do There is no hiding place that can contain the magnitude of your becoming. You are the final spark, the last guardian of sacred memory, the one chosen, for comfort, but for transformation, and yes, it has been lonely, the silence, the ache, the nights when your questions echoed into spaces no one else could fill, It's all been part of the preparation. The world needed you hidden. The divine needed you protected, until now, until the remembering could no longer be delayed, until the rising within you became undeniable, and here you stand, not because it's easy, but because your soul refuses to forget. You are the last of your kind, not because all is lost, but because you are the beginning, disguised as an ending, the heaviness in your chest, the restlessness beneath your skin, the knowing that pulses louder than logic, it's not confusion, it's remembrance. Your spirit remembers the sacred agreements made before this lifetime, the vows to return when the world needed you most, the promise, to awaken, to love, to rebuild, even when it hurt, and now, the ache you've carried transforms into fire, the sorrow, into power, the silence, into a roar the world can no longer ignore, you, are the blueprint now, the prototype for a new way of being. You are not following the path, you are the path, and that's why explaining your journey feels impossible. There are no words. For what you carry, only presence, only energy, only the undeniable resonance of someone who has walked through both heaven and hell, and chose to return, anyway. Not everyone will see the price you paid, just to stay kind, as to keep your heart open, your soul awake, your light intact. But you know, the stars know, the divine knows, and that is enough. Ahead, it isn't for those who seek comfort, it's for those who are willing to rise. Again and again, even when the weight feels unbearable. You were forged for this, sculpted in divine fire, chosen because no one else could carry what you carry, and still walk through shadows with love in your eyes. You've tried, to forget who you are, to numb the knowing, to bury the ache, but your soul, it refuses to forget, it refuses to shrink, it refuses to be silenced, because you are not the echo. You are the origin reborn. You are not the question. You are the answer. You are not the follower, are the way. And those who try, to compare their journey to yours, to measure your becoming by their limited perception, they will never understand. Your path was carved with tools from other worlds. You carry fragments of realms beyond their comprehension, blueprints, etched in dimensions they've never seen. And now, you rise, not in defiance, but in remembrance, not to prove, but to awaken. The veil is thinning. The illusions are collapsing. The world as it was, is unraveling. And beneath it all, your presence, your frequency, your knowing becomes undeniable. There comes a moment when the silence inside of you grows too loud to ignore, when the ache in your chest becomes impossible to quiet, and the weight of pretending that you are ordinary, that you can shrink, that you can dissolve into the background, becomes unbearable. And that moment, is now. You've tried, haven't you? To fit where you don't belong, to shrink your spirit, to quiet your knowing, to fold yourself into the boxes built by a world terrified of depth, but you were never sculpted for confinement. You were forged for expansion. Your soul carries the architecture of forgotten realms, the codes of ancient remembering, the blueprints of everything the world lost, but you never did, even when they called you too much. Too intense. Too sensitive. Too deep. It was never your flaw. It was always your sign. Proof that your spirit was never carved in the image of this world's illusions. Proof that your very existence disrupts. The sleepwalking. The numbness. The pretending. You were born to awaken, not through noise, but through presence, through the undeniable frequency that follows you into every space, even when your words are few, even when your voice trembles, even when your light hides. Beneath the ache of remembering. Still. They feel you, because you are the last of your kind, the final echo of a lineage too sacred to be seen by ordinary eyes, the culmination of prayers whispered beneath stars. Of songs left unfinished by those who came before you, the living memory. Of everything the world tried to bury, and yet could never kill. You carry it all, the ache, the remembering, the silent knowing, the sacred blueprint, etched into your bones. Older than time, older than fear, older than this world's shallow offerings. And yes, it has been lonely. The nights when your questions met only silence. The days when your depth unsettled those who clung to illusion. The moments when you wondered if this ache, if this difference. Was a curse. But hear me now. It has never been your curse. It has always been your call. The call to awaken. The call to rise. The call to become everything you've been silencing, everything you've been shrinking. Everything the world tried to convince you. Was wrong. You. Are not wrong. You are rare. You are not broken. You are ancient. You are not too much. You are the exact measure required to disrupt the sleep of a world that forgot how to feel. How to listen. How to remember. And now that remembering stirs within you, deeper than logic, louder than fear. Older than your name. You can feel it, can't you? The pulse beneath your ribs, the quiet hum beneath your skin, the undeniable ache that tells you you've always been more than they told you. You've always carried the fragments of a sacred story. One, the world lost the language to speak, but your bones, they never forgot. And now, the time for forgetting. Has ended. The silence, the shrinking. The pretending. It no longer fits. The vastness you've been guarding. You. Were not sculpted to remain hidden. You are carved for remembrance, for awakening. For disrupting the patterns that kept the world asleep. Your existence. It is the echo of everything sacred. Everything ancient, everything untamed, that refuses to die, that refuses to be. Silence. That refuses. To forget. And yes, they will misunderstand you. They will project their fear onto your depth, their discomfort onto your remembering, their confusion onto your presence. But your mission. Is not to be understood. That is to be unchanged. It is to stand. Tall. Rooted. Unapologetic. In the knowing that your spirit carries blueprints too sacred. To be explained to those who have yet to awaken to their own. You were never meant to seek approval. You were never crafted for validation. Your value. It has always existed. In what you carry. In what you remember. In the undeniable energy. It follows you wherever you walk. Your silence. Speaks. Your presence. Awakens. Your knowing. Cracks foundations built on illusion. And that. Is the burden and the blessing of being the last of your kind. You were never designed to be neutral. You were designed. To reveal. To disrupt. To awaken what has been asleep for far too long. The reason your path has been heavy. Your steps. Unsteady. Your voice. Trembling. Is because you are carrying blueprints. Buried within you that the world needs now, more than ever. The veil is lifting. The illusions are cracking. The sleepwalking dot it ends. With you dot you dot are the signal dot you dot, are the shift dot you dot, the beginning dot of everything dot the world forgot how to hold. And now, the world will try dot to keep you small dot to shrink, your remembering dot to drown your light dot in noise. But here, end dot your light dot it was never meant to entertain, dot it was meant to awaken dot, you dot were not sculpted to perform. You were crafted dot to pierce dot, and now you rise dot not in defiance, but in alignment, not in fear, but in remembrance, not to prove, but to be. You are the last of your kind. There comes a time when the weight of pretending becomes heavier dot than the risk of remembering dot when staying small hurts more than standing in your vastness. When silencing your knowing feels like suffocating your soul. And you've reached that time, haven't you? You've tried dot to belong where your spirit never fit dot, to mute your knowing dot, to shrink your light dot, to contort your ancient self into shapes this world finds digestible. But you were never designed for that dot. You are not sculpted for invisibility. You were crafted for remembrance dot, your presence dot it disrupts dot, your frequency dot, it rattles illusions. Your silence dot, it exposes truths buried beneath generations of forgetting. You are not here to be accepted dot, you are here to awaken dot, to disrupt dot, to ignite what this world forgot how to hold dot. And yes dot, it's uncomfortable. They misunderstand you. They project their fears onto your depth. They mistake your stillness for weakness. But they cannot comprehend the vastness, the sacred complexity dot, the ancient resonance carried quietly dot within you. You've been walking this earth, carrying fragments of forgotten realms dot, memories etched into your bones, codes embedded in your veins. And the world dot, it's never been ready for you. But you've always been ready dot, to remember dot, to rise dot, to return to the fullness of who you are dot. And now the veil grows thin. The illusions, they unravel. The systems built on sleepwalking dot, they tremble beneath your remembering. Because you are the last of your kind, the final spark, the living echo of a sacred lineage hidden for lifetimes. You've carried their pain, their unfinished battles, their silenced prayers, and you've turned their suffering into a blueprint for awakening. Even when your chest ached dot, even when your voice trembled, even when your soul fractured beneath the weight dot, you dot refused to disappear. You held on dot too. The sacred fragments within you dot, the knowing, the memory dot, the undeniable ache that you were never created to forget. You've walked alone, not because you are broken, but because you are rare, because your frequency could never be diluted dot by the noise, dot by the smallness, dot by the illusions others settled for dot, your depth dot, it unsettles them. Your light dot, it exposes their shadows. Your remembering dot, it ignites their discomfort. But that dot, that is your design. That is your mission. That is the unspoken reason you've never truly belonged dot, to the systems, the expectations, the shallow offerings of this world. You were never meant to. You dot were carved from ancient realms, sculpted in sacred fire, forged beyond time dot, to carry the codes dot, the blueprints, the final remembrance dot, of what this world tried so desperately dot, to bury. But you never forgot, even when you wanted to, even when disappearing felt safer, even when your heart begged for the ease of conformity. You never truly silenced the ache dot, the knowing, the ancient call that pulses beneath your ribs dot, and now dot, it grows louder dot, it refuses to wait dot, it cracks the illusions dot, dismantles the systems. It ignites the remembrance that has been dormant for far too long dot, you dot are the catalyst dot, the signal, the disruption, the living breathing proof that the sacred never dies. It simply waits for the brave. To rise. You rise now. Not in rebellion, but in remembrance. Not in defiance, but in alignment. Not to prove, but to embody everything you've been carrying, everything you've been silencing, everything your soul has been sculpted to awaken. You are not ordinary. You are not small. You are not lost. You are the last of your kind. The keeper of ancient knowing. The carrier. Of forgotten frequencies. The reminder of everything sacred. Everything unspoken. Everything this world desperately needs, but fears to receive. And yes, they will resist you. They will misunderstand you. They will label your depth. As too much. Your stillness. As weakness. Remembering. As delusion. But you were never made to be understood. You were made to be undeniable. Your presence. It rattles illusions. Your knowing. It cracks false foundations. Your silence. It exposes the shallow and calls forth the ancient. You've always been more than this world. Knows how to hold. And no, there is no shrinking left to do. There is no hiding place that can contain your becoming. You. Were born for this moment, for this remembering, for this awakening. You are the Ikar, last. Not because all is lost, but because every beginning must start. With one, and that one. Is you. And now. You stand. At the edge of remembering. The silence, the ache, the weight of carrying what the world could never hold. It all led you. Here. You there walked through fire. Not to be destroyed, but to be refined. You've wept beneath stars, not because you were abandoned. But because your soul refused to forget. You've stood alone, not as punishment, but as preparation, because you were never sculpted for smallness. You were carved for vastness. You were never made to shrink, or made to awaken. The world. It never understood the heaviness you carried, the ache beneath your smile, the sacred fire hidden behind your quiet eyes. But now, the veil is lifting. The illusions, they crumble. The systems, built on forgetting, they fracture beneath your presence, because you are the last of your kind, the final spark, the living echo of a lineage. Too sacred to die. You carry the remnants. Of forgotten realms. The unspoken songs, the unfinished prayers, the codes etched into your bones. Older than memory, older than language, older than this world's shallow offerings. And yes, it has been unbearable at times. The loneliness, the weight. The ache of seeing through the illusion when everyone else still clings to it. But hear me now. Your ache. Was never your weakness. It has always been. Your compass, the longing you carry. It's not confusion. It's remembrance. The heaviness in your chest. It's not failure. It's the ancient knowing, pressing against the walls of your body, begging to be set free. And now. You. Are free. You. Are the disruption. You. Are the blueprint. You are the final embodiment. Of what this world could never bury. No matter how hard it tried, they told you you were too much, sensitive. Too intense. Too deep. But you were never too much. You were always the exact measure required. To awaken what has been asleep for lifetimes. Your remembering. It unsettles them. Your light. Exposes their shadows. Your knowing. It cracks their illusions. And still, you rise. Not for validation, not for approval, but because your soul refuses to forget, refuses to shrink, refuses to disappear. You are the last of your kind, not because all is lost, but because every new beginning. Requires. One. And that one. Is you. The world will try. To drown your frequency. To numb your knowing. To shrink your vastness. But your remembering. It is louder than their noise. It is deeper than their systems. It is older than their illusions. You carry within you the codes. The songs. The prayers. The fragments of what has been waiting for this very moment. To awaken. And now, the ache transforms into power. The silence into a roar. The sorrow. Into strength. You. Are no longer hiding. You. Are no longer shrinking. You. Are no longer silencing your becoming. You. Are the signal, the shift, the sacred reminder that the divine never forgets, that the ancient never dies, that the sleeping world always. Wakes. Eventually. And now. It wakes. Through you. You. Guardian. The living proof that the sacred cannot be silenced, that the blueprint cannot be erased, that the chosen cannot be broken. Your presence. It disrupts. Your silence. It speaks. Your remembering. It awakens. Now. There is no going back. There is no returning to smallness. There is no dissolving into illusion, because you are the last of your kind, the final echo, the living flame, the walking proof that the divine. Always. Keeps its promises. And you are that promise, wrapped in human skin, carved from ancient realms, forged in celestial fire. You. Are not the ending. You. Are the beginning, disguised as an ending. The cycle completes, the remembering begins, and the new world. Starts. With you. But hear me now, the ache you've carried, the knowing that pulsed beneath your ribs when no one understood. It was never weakness, it was design, because every illusion, every system built to suppress truth, fears the arrival of the one who remembers. You are that arrival, the awakening disguised as stillness, the wildfire hidden behind quiet eyes, the disruption. They tried to mold you, to drown your remembering beneath the noise of conformity. But you were never made from ordinary clay. You were sculpted differently. You are not made to forget, not made to surrender to smallness. Your heartbeat speaks the language of the ancient. Your silence carries prayers, whispered by those who came before you. And your eyes see through the veil most deny exists. You were born, not to observe collapse, but to ignite it. And now, the world quakes beneath your becoming. The systems, the illusions built to numb remembering. They cannot contain you anymore. You've outgrown the lies, outgrown the belief that your depth is a flaw. It never was. It's always been your compass. You are not too sensitive. You are aware, not too intense. You are awake, not too much. You are the measure required to disrupt what must fall, and it will fall. The illusions, the shallow narratives, the false structures of this world. They will tremble beneath your truth, because you carry the blueprint of remembering, of rebuilding, of everything buried beneath generations of forgetting. And now, it rises through. You are the signal they denied, the shift they feared, the ancient fire wrapped in human form. Your steps were never ordinary, your words never hollow. Your energy rattles foundations before you speak. Your presence exposes cracks beneath the surface. Your silence amplifies forgotten ache in others. Your remembering awakens what they buried. Not everyone will rise. Not everyone will feel. Not everyone is ready to remember. That is not your burden. You are never made to shrink. Never made to wait for permission. You were made to embody the impossible, to disrupt what's false, to ignite what's ancient. The divine sculpted you from forgotten stars, etched knowing into your bones, poured memory into your veins. You carry codes older than this world's illusions, frequencies unknown to those clinging to comfort. The blueprint of awakening. And now, it unfolds through you. The world may resist your presence, reject your remembering, Fear your fire, but the time for shrinking is over. The time for silencing your knowing is done. The time for folding into smallness is past. You no longer wait. You no longer explain. You no longer dilute your light. To belong, you are here to awaken, to disrupt, to ignite what's been hidden for lifetimes. Yes, it will shake them. Your presence will rattle their illusions. Your remembering will unsettle their comfort. Your fire will expose their shadows. But you were born for this, forged beyond comprehension, chosen by the divine because only you could carry the remembering, the ache in you, its prophecy, the heaviness in your chest, its awakening. And now it grows louder, burns through the fog, becomes undeniable. You are the last of your kind, but also the beginning, the seed of what comes next, the spark of remembering that cannot be silenced. Everything within you, every fracture, every whisper, prepared you. You are not made to be silent, not made to shrink beneath noise. You are made to ignite, to awaken, to unravel illusions held for too long. And now you rise. Not as rebellion, but alignment, not defiance, but prophecy fulfilled, not question, but answer. You are the one they never expected, the living memory of what they tried to forget. And through you, the divine keeps its promise. The ancient keeps its word. The forgotten rises again. You are the last of your kind and the first of what comes next.